From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
We are protesting voluntarily. It is not for money. The Parliament is responsible for all of this. All we ask for is for the government to cut down on prices of food.
Food riots break out across the world, from Haiti to Egypt, Burkina Faso to Cambodia. People are taking to the streets protesting rising food costs. Here in the United States, the number of Americans receiving food stamps is reaching record levels. We'll speak with Raj Patel, author of Stuffed and Starved, The Hidden Battle for the World Food System. But first, a Democracy Now! Broadcast exclusive. In their first joint interview, 2 employees of military contractor KBR say they were raped by their co-workers in Iraq. One will reveal her identity when she testifies before Congress tomorrow. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Army General David Petraeus and Ambassador Ryan Crocker are heading to Capitol Hill today to update Congress on the war in Iraq. Petraeus expected to claim security is improved in Iraq, but that troop levels should remain at the pre-surge level of 130,000. Their appearance before Congress comes while about 1,000 U.S. and Iraqi forces are engaged in fierce fighting in Baghdad against Shia militias linked to Muqtada al-Sadr. On Monday, hundreds of Iraqis fled their homes in Sadr City to escape the fighting, which has killed more than 30 Iraqis since Sunday. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki has warned Sadr he would be banned from participating in elections unless his militia is disbanded. Meanwhile, 8 Iraqis have reportedly died in Basra following a U.S. airstrike. Television footage showed rescue workers pulling bodies from the rubble of a house that had been completely destroyed. Relatives wailed in grief as children picked through the rubble. The Guardian newspaper reports it's obtained a controversial draft agreement between the United States and Iraqi governments that would allow for an open-ended U.S. military presence in Iraq. The draft strategic framework is intended to replace the existing UN mandate. It authorizes the U.S. to, quote, conduct military operations in Iraq and to detain individuals when necessary for imperative reasons of security, unquote, without time limit. Iraqi critics point out the agreement contains no limits on numbers of U.S. forces, the weapons they're able to deploy, their legal status or powers over Iraqi citizens, going far beyond long-term U.S. security agreements with other countries. Meanwhile, the State Department's defending its decision to renew a contract with the mercenary firm Blackwater without the prior approval of the Iraqi government. State Department spokesperson Sean McCormick told reporters, quote, it's fundamentally a decision for us to take about how we protect our people. In news from Washington, President Bush has announced he'll soon ask Congress to approve a trade agreement with Colombia. Bush said the need for this deal is too urgent to delay.
This agreement will advance America's national security interests in a critical region. It will strengthen a courageous ally in our hemisphere. It will help America's economy and America's workers at a vital time. It deserves bipartisan support from the United States Congress.
Once the trade deal is submitted to Congress, legislators have 90 business days to approve or reject it. Labor unions and human rights groups have been pushing Congress to reject the treaty, in part because Colombia has the highest rate of killings of trade unionists in the world. According to Human Rights Watch, 17 trade unionists have been killed in Colombia in the first 3 months of this year. Senators Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have both publicly opposed the deal. But it was revealed last week that Clinton's top strategists had been hired by the Colombian government to lobby for the trade deal. The advisor, Mark Penn, the head of Burson Marsteller, the lobbying firm, stepped down from his post as Clinton's top advisor after it was disclosed he personally met with Colombia's ambassador. Plans for the Department of Homeland Security to launch a new satellite surveillance system is coming under new criticism on Capitol Hill. Last week, Secretary Michael Chertoff said the satellite surveillance system would be soon ready to go. But now the Wall Street Journal reports Democrats are threatening to shut down the program unless the department does more to address privacy concerns. The satellite program is designed to provide federal, state, and local officials with extensive access to spy satellite imagery to assist with emergency response and other domestic security needs. But critics say the Bush administration hasn't created legal safeguards to ensure the program won't be used for domestic spying. A new report from Human Rights Watch concludes the CIA has transferred at least 14 prisoners to Jordan for interrogation and torture since 2001. The rights group says Jordan served as a proxy jailer and interrogator for the CIA from 2001 till at least 2004. Under this period, no other country is believed to have held as many prisoners as Jordan. An Israeli energy newsletter has revealed Israel secretly buying oil from Iran despite an official boycott. The newsletter, Energia News, reports Israeli companies get around the boycott by having the oil delivered to European ports where it's then bought by Israelis. The oil is then imported into Israel by the Eilat Ashkelon pipeline company, which keeps its oil sources secret. Meanwhile, police in Israel have shut down a Jerusalem radio station whose stated mission is to bring Israelis and Palestinians together. During a raid on Monday, police confiscated the station's equipment and detained 8 workers. Israeli officials accused Ram FM of broadcasting without a permit. The station broadcasts in Jerusalem and Ramallah. It was started a year ago by a South African Jewish businessman who modeled it after a South African station, which was set up in apartheid South Africa in the 1980s. In Britain, the Times of London reports a spy working for a counterintelligence company recently infiltrated a direct-action environmental group that targets the aviation industry. The man, Toby Kendall, joined the group Plain Stupid, claiming he was deeply concerned by the impact of the aviation industry on climate change. In fact, Kendall was working for C21 Intelligence, a counterintelligence company run by former Special Forces officers. The Times of London reports members of Plain Stupid, that's spelled P-L-A-N-E, Stupid, began to question Kendall's identity in part because of his habit of wearing a Palestinian scarf with his Armani jeans and designer shirt. The Associated Press reports the International Olympic Committee is considering scrapping the international leg of the Olympic torch relay as a result of a series of pro-Tibet protests. On Monday, officials in Paris were forced to extinguish the Olympic flame and carry it by bus when protesters tried to seize it. Wang Hui of the Beijing Organized Committee criticized the ongoing protests.
For those few separatists who attempt to sabotage and destroy the Beijing Olympic torch relay, we express our strong condemnation. The Olympic flame belongs to the people around the world, so the behavior of a few separatists would not gain sympathy from people and will cause strong criticism and is doomed to fail.
Kouri Sohail, the president of the International Olympic Committee in Lebanon, said the Olympic Games should be free from politics.
The problem of Tibet in China is an internal problem. I am against to manage the problem of politics with sport. Sport is our game, is the game for the athlete, is the game for all universities, is the game for Beijing, is the game for all the Olympic or movement in the world. I think it's better to keep this problem clear.
Meanwhile, police in San Francisco are preparing for possible disruptions when the Olympic torch stops in the city today. San Francisco is the only North American stop of the Olympic torch relay. On Monday, 3 pro-Tibet activists climbed the cables of San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge and unfurled a banner reading, "One World, One Dream, Free Tibet." Tibet is also becoming an issue in the U.S. presidential race. On Monday, Senator Hillary Clinton called on President Bush to boycott the Olympics opening ceremony in Beijing. On Monday, Rwanda commemorated 14 years after the 1994 slaughter of some 800,000 ethnic Tutsis and Hutus. President Paul Kagame attended a ceremony at a church in which 3,000 people were massacred. Speakers included Andre Kama, survivor of the genocide.
It is important to continue to remember our people who have been killed in the genocide. Until now, we do not know where many are buried. In the last 2 months, we have found more than 100 bodies with the help of the released by the Jakarta courts. This is good for the families and good for other families still waiting to find their relatives.
It's believed over 800,000 people in Rwanda died in that 10-day period in April in 1994. And Abe Osheroff has died at the age of 92. He was a lifelong political activist and one of the last remaining survivors of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, the 3,000 American volunteers who fought against fascism in the Spanish Civil War. Abe Osheroff's activism began during the Great Depression when he helped evicted tenants, and his activism continued to his final years. In 2006, he took part in a 27-hour sit-in